Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another very special Out of the Fast Lane presented to you by, partnered with you by the people, DirtTrackDigest.com, Dirt Track Digest TV. We will be there will be some pay-per-views this weekend with Dirt Track Digest TV, Big Diamond, Fonda, Albany, Saratoga, a whole bunch of tracks that are all the weekly races that'll happen. And if you can't make the show, you can go on dirttrackdigest.com/TV and you can set up an account and then you can purchase the pay-per-view and you will be able to watch tonight's show. Today we have something a little different. This is my first time doing something with this. Lori Fallis out of Johnstown has a racing league at Fonda and Albany and a whole bunch of other tracks around the area. The Mohawk, hold on, let's make sure I say this right. No, Lori. All right. Mohawk Valley Vintage Dirt Modified Series, and we have a driver out of that series. He races the number 78M. He'll give us a little bit of a background, who he's racing as, and all that stuff. His name is Mike Francisco. He races in the Mohawk Valley Vintage Dirt Modified Series, ran by Larry Fallis. Next week we have little things to do with. Next week I'll be doing some interesting things with her in the vintage cars. Next weekend I'll be interviewing some of the vintage drivers and doing some pretty cool things with them. We have other shows this week. We have Brett Tonkin. If anybody is familiar with Short Track Super Series, racing the Short Track Super Series, modified driver Brent Tonkin. He'll be joining us. Friday I will be at Albany, Saratoga, so make sure if you guys see me, you can say hello. And I will also be doing some post-race stuff with some drivers there. Saturday we have a scheduled interview with E.J. McAuliffe and Carter Gibbons at Fonda, as long as the weather depends on it. If the weather does not happen, we will have Carter Gibbons on our regular show, but we'll definitely have Carter Gibbons on our actual show next week. If Fonda happens, so say Fonda happens Saturday, which is gonna, I hope, I'll be doing a post-race interview with Carter Gibbons, and then I'll have him on the actual show for the podcast for next week sometime. We're also gonna have Andy Graves joining us. We got, who else? We got more drivers and people that we gotta get on the show, and I'm definitely talking. I'm in talk with people and getting them on my show. Like I'm also talking to somebody. I'm talking to a very big, important person out of a certain speedway that you guys might be familiar with, and yeah, it's gonna be cool. So we will be racing. So I'll be at Malta Friday, and I'll be at Fonda Saturday, which is gonna be awesome. And we are gonna get Mike on here now and get this thing started. Sorry if I'm standing up. Hello?
Hello.
Welcome to the show.
Thanks.
So,
glad to be here.
For people that may or may not know you, could you give us a little background about yourself?
Well, my name is Mike Francisco. This is my second year racing in the Mohawk Valley Vintage Modified Series. Live in the town of Perth, Amsterdam area. That's about it. What else would you like to know?
So, what car for the Legend Series? What's your car based off of? Which driver from back in the day?
Well, the body that's on it right now is the Maynard Frat, the 78M. That body was on it when I purchased the vehicle. From my cousin Buck Gasner. That body was put on there because they were going to have a tribute at Lebanon Valley for Maynard. So they decided to put together a car for that show.
Mm-hmm. What got you started into racing for you?
Well, I mean, I've been going to races ever as a kid with my dad going to Fonda Speedway, going to Malta, Albany, Saratoga. And so I never actually raced a race car before. Probably 8 years ago, I got in a go-kart because my son was racing go-karts at Croga Creek, and I decided, well, hey, let me try it. It looks easy. So I strapped in one of those, and I thought I was flying, and coming to find out I wasn't going any faster than my 7-year-old. So it was a little disappointing. But so last year, Buck Gasner, who was my cousin, he's raced as a pro stock. Mm-hmm. He had this car and decided that he was going to concentrate on the pro stocks. So he said, this car is just going to sit. Would you be interested in driving it? I was like, well, yeah, I guess. I've never driven a race car before, but hey, let's give it a shot. So, you know, we got the car ready for him. We took it down to the show down the Viewport Mall, and then we raced it, and that's how I actually, you know, got into racing into a race car, was through Buck. And like I said, I had never sat in a race car before. Mm-hmm. You know.
So you raced in a Legends car. What's the word vintage mean to you? I got asked to ask you this because Lori Fallis wanted me to ask you. What's the word vintage mean to you?
You know, vintage to me is I'm not going to say it's old. I'm going to say it's that's a good question. I mean, again, yeah, vintage is old, but vintage is the good stuff. Let me put it that way. I think the vintage is the good races, the good cars. You know, I mean, everything now they all look the same. They're all flamboyant. They're all the same body style. They're all, you know. So I think vintage is classic and old school. Mm-hmm. You know.
Mm-hmm. So we're all experiencing issues with the pandemic. Everybody just had issues with it. And racetracks have been really strict on having fans not allowed at the racetracks. What's that mean to you as a driver without having fans there?
It's disappointing. It really is. You know, I mean, because that's what we do this for. The vintage group that we're involved with is to show, you know, the kids of today what the cars looked like back then in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and the 80s, and even the early 90s. So to not have them be there to put on a show for them it's kind of disappointing. It's good. It's nice to go and race. Don't get me wrong. That's what we do it for. We do it to have fun. But it's really there to put a show on for the fans, and that's the disappointing aspect of it. Mm-hmm.
So you guys travel to many tracks for the Mohawk Vintage Series and all that. What is there a favorite track that you happen to have, and why is that?
Well, you know, at this point, I would have to say, because I won at Fonda, so I'm going to say that's my favorite track. I do like Glen Ridge. You know, I've only raced there once, which was last year, and I had a slate issue. People can, you know, if you ask some people, they'll tell you that I rode the wall and made a few sparks. But so it's really hard to say what my favorite track is, because I've only run, you know, most tracks 2 or 3 times. Fonda the most. I've probably run Fonda 6 times now. But, you know, I've run Albany, Saratoga a couple times, and Glen Ridge only once. But, you know, they're all different. They all have their characteristics. You know, it's just a little bull ring at the ridge. Malta's a little bigger than that. So, you know, I've run Lebanon Valley. That's a big track. Had a bad experience there last year. But I'm going to say Fonda at this point is probably my favorite track. Mm-hmm.
Now take me back to that win last year. What was going through your mind, but on the white flag, knowing that you were ahead to win? What was going through your mind?
Well, last night, well, this Saturday night was the win, and the thing is I didn't know I was leading. You know, I had a good idea I was leading my division because, you know, when we race the vintage class, we run 3 different classes in this at the same time in the same feature. So we have Sportsman's, Modifieds, and Late Models. So, you know, we're racing against other guys, and you know, so cars were passing me, but I couldn't tell. I didn't know exactly if they were in my class or not. So when the white flag came out and I saw a car that had won the feature 2 weeks prior to me on my outside in turns 1 and 2, I was like, oh boy, here we go. I can't let him beat me. Even whether or not it was for the win or not, I just didn't want him to beat me or get in front of me because he had won the last race. So so really, it's very difficult to know, you know, unless you have a list in your car and as you're going around the track saying, oh, well, he's not in my class, he's not in my class. So, but when I pulled off the track, I was like, geez, I don't know whether I won or not. I had a pretty good feeling I did until I got to the scales, and Lori Fallis came over and gave me the thumbs up and the fist pumps and all that, and I was like, oh, goodness gracious, I won it. You know, so at that point was exciting, and then I had the scale. So when I pulled it up on the scale and knew saw the numbers and I was 25 pounds overweight, I was a happy camper at that point. And so it was really neat to find out that I had won the race.
So during the pandemic, everybody, like I said, everybody's had their issues and stuff, and dirt racing and NASCAR and a whole bunch of different groups got to do the iRacing. Did you get to even try? Did you get to watch it or even try it? And what did you think about it?
I did watch it. I watched actually quite a few of the races this year, and I thought it was pretty neat. And I did say that it would be fun to try that just to see, because you know they say it's very realistic, and so I would have liked to try it, but you know I never got the chance. But I enjoyed watching the races.
Mm-hmm. So Lori Fallis wanted me to ask you this: what are your thoughts on the crazy lady that runs the Mohawk Valley Vintage Series?
You know, Lori is she's a heck of a lady. She works hard, you know, to promote our stuff, and you know, she's tough. You know, you know, if you're doing something wrong, she's gonna let you know. And you know, but she's also got that kind side to her that, you know, you ask her a question and you know, she'll point you in the right direction, but Lori is a good promoter. She's done a great job. It's been phenomenal the last couple weeks here, having over 40 cars, where there were sometimes we did, you know, last year we had 12, 13 at tops, you know, but you know, she's grown this sport. She really gets out there and she promotes it. She's on Facebook all the time promoting it, and pictures and everything, and she does a great job.
If you could race against any driver, past or present, who would it be and why? It could be anybody.
You know what? In the right equipment, I'd love to race against Stewie, just to see what I had for him. You know, but you know what? I grew up watching Jack Johnson and Dave Lape and Lou Lazaro and those guys, so it would be a blast to get in the car and race those guys, just because that's, you know, that's the history of the sport, and that's you know, that's what we're doing now, is promoting that and trying to bring that back. But you know, Stu's a great driver, and I'd like to sit in his car one day, just take it around the lap track a couple times and see how it feels, you know.
So you mentioned that you unfortunately hit the wall really hard last year at Glenridge. I saw the video. I saw what happened, all that stuff. What was going through your mind, especially knowing that Like, what goes through your mind when you're crashing and stuff like that? Especially because the fact you're in a older model of car, per se.
You know what? You know, as it was unfolding, you know, the reason that happened is, again, like I said earlier, you don't know who you're racing when you're racing because you don't know if they're in your class. And I thought the car that was in front of me or next to me was in my group, and I said, you know what, I need to get in front of them. So I drove it in a little too hot in the corner, and 1 and 2, and got up in the loose stuff, and I just kept my foot in it and said, here we go. I think I got it, and then I hit the berm on the bottom of the wall, and up the wall it went, and on top. And, you know, people have asked me that a lot, you know, what were you thinking at that point? And I was like, you know what? It happened so fast, I didn't have a chance to even think about it. After the fact, as I came down off the wall, what my thoughts were was like, thank God I didn't hit the other side of the wall after I came down, because that's the entrance to pit lane at Glen Ridge. You know, so all these things go through your mind after the fact, but as it was happening, I was just holding on for dear life.
Mm-hmm.
Plain and simple.
Mm-hmm. What other hobbies do you enjoy besides racing?
You know what? We have motorcycles, so my wife and I like to go for motorcycle rides. You know, I'm getting a little older, you know, but you know, I used to like, you know, sports, basketball, baseball, and stuff like that. But nowadays it's just you know, watching NASCAR, watching dirt races, working on the car. That's kind of what my hobbies are at this point.
Mm-hmm. So this is gonna be the final question. To wrap everything up, okay, what is the best part for you as a race car driver, and the best part of racing in the Mohawk Valley Vintage Dirt Car Series?
You know, the best part is getting out there and racing and having fun and meeting new people. You know, I've met a lot of cool guys. You know, John Flack, Dan Wood, you know, the Dancing Bear, John Constantino. You know, so it's a blast. It's a lot of fun. Great people. We're like a family. You know, 10 minutes before the feature race last week, I realized I was checking nuts and bolts and realized I had a couple loose nuts, and actually lost a nut on my right front caliper. And I was running up and down pit road and asking people, had the other nut with me, and asking people, you know, do you have one? And they're like, no, we don't have one. And so I went to John Flack's trailer, and luckily he had one, and we got her back together, and at the end we won the race. So I don't know if it was meant to be, but it seemed like it was. Mm-hmm. But you know, I love getting in the race car and just the competition. You know, I told my wife that I don't know if this is the division I'm in, because I'm a little too competitive. I feel like I want to put a bumper to somebody, but that's not what we're here for. We're not here to push somebody out of the way and get the spot. You know, so, but it's a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. I tell you, you know, never getting in the car before. It's a blast.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's all I had for you today. Any questions for me?
No, I think I'm good.
Any sponsors or family or friends you want to shout out? You can feel free.
Yeah, you know, my sponsors this year that came on were the Adirondack Hardwood Floor Company, Bethany Schumann McGee, attorney at law, Jade Enterprises, the kitchen and bath specialist, and Nate Snowplow Service. They really helped out immensely this year. Got me some new tires, got me some new rims, few odds and ends here and there, and it's been a blessing to have them on board. And you know, if anybody else is looking to sponsor a race car, I got a couple spots left. So, you know, just give me a shout and we'll put you on there.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today. And some next next week I am gonna be out. I'll probably be able to meet you next week because I'm actually gonna be doing some stuff in the pits with you guys next week for the Legends series with Lori. So I'm looking forward to meeting you.
Yeah, me too.
All right. Thanks for being on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yep. All right. And that is Mike Francisco. He races a vintage modified out of Ronald in Perth. Very cool. There's the thing from Fonda the other night. He won the, like he said, he won the other night at Fonda, which was really cool. And like I said, we're gonna probably do some more stuff with these vintage guys, which is pretty cool because it gives me a little bit more of some knowledge from back in the, for me to learn a little bit from back in the day, what they were doing back in the day as a racing. We'll be at Malta Friday, Fonda Saturday. A couple shout outs I'd like to give to are Scott Huber, he's been helping me out. We got Derek Collins, we got George Kohler, Lori Fallis, all the drivers that I've had on my show, my mom, my dad, all those people. It's been, without those people, I don't think I'd still be, I don't know if I'd made it this far. I'm glad I've made it this far. It's been an experience for me, and I love making these videos, and we'll definitely get more, we'll do more and more as we can. And so tomorrow I'm in talk with a couple drivers about tomorrow. I'll see what I can do. We might have a show tomorrow, or I might take the day off. Depends on who I can get a hold of to do a show. Doesn't take that much, but if you guys are ever looking for like this, if you ever need somebody to talk to about racing, DM me on Instagram, Brady Hauser Dirt Track Digest, Facebook, Brady Hauser, Out of the Fast Lane Podcast. You can DM one of our guys. There's pretty much any social media. Twitter, I'm up on there. TikTok, I'm on there, even though I don't post much on there. But yeah, I do a lot in the social media world to help with dirt racing and promoting, and it's really cool to meet new drivers and do all this type of stuff and build my reputation doing different series like the vintage series, like. So it's pretty cool that, and get to meet different people, meet new people, and become friends with these new drivers and stuff. It means a lot to me, and I'm looking forward to what else happens next. There's a long road to go, and we're close to 100 subscribers. So if you haven't hit that subscribe button, make sure you hit that subscribe button because we're getting really close to getting there. And I guess I'm gonna end today's show there. So thank you guys so much for watching. I am Brady Hauser. That was Mike Francisco out of the Mohawk Valley Vintage Dirt Modified Series. And you've been watching Out of the Fast Lane, and partnered to you with Dirt Track Digest. And I would like to say thank you. Another shout out to all those guys and myself, because I'm now with them. They do a lot with the dirt racing community. We got Bobby Sweeney, Mike Mallett, George Smith, GT Smith, whole bunch of people that help us out, help me out, help dirt racing community out, all that stuff. So it means a lot. If you guys are looking to like do iRacing or anything, you can also DM me on that, because I'm gonna be starting that next week. So if you guys ever want to do some practice or iRacing or anything like that, I'll definitely do that with you as well. Well, other than that, thank you guys for watching.